Hello everybody, I'm Rachel Sawani and I'm back for part 2 of my channel's interview with David Bowie. In case you missed part 1, I'll leave a link here in the descriptions box for that video. But basically in part 1 we covered a lot of ground. I had David pull some cards from a bunch of different decks, and he shared a lot of his life lessons and themes, along with a lot of wisdom when it comes to messages that he has for us regarding his own human experiences and his galactic roots and heritage. He talks a lot about the galactic connections in that video, and there were just so many more questions that some of my viewers had for him that we didn't have a chance to go directly into the last video, so I'm really looking forward to getting into those questions with him today. There's about 8 questions, so I assume based on how much he had to say last time that this video could also be a longer one, but I think it's just really fun to connect with the different celebrity guides. I've only previously connected with Freddie Mercury and George Michael, but David Bowie started coming around with Freddie a lot, actually. Their song Under Pressure is a popular one, and I've always loved that song, and I noticed when that song was playing a lot on the radio around me, I was starting to pick up on David's energy, and so again, there's a lot of different ways that we can connect with these celebrity guides, and that's actually my first question for David today, because I like to ask each guide how they show themselves or how we can know that they're around. And so I forgot to ask that in my last video, so that's the first question I'm going to start off with. But before we go there, I'm going to just, I know he's around, so he's very polite, and I just want to tune into his energy and see how he's feeling today. He's saying, oh, I'm feeling great, I'm really excited. I'm excited to get to it. I'm excited to be here again. I have a lot more to share is the feeling he's giving me, or I still have a lot more to say. We have some really good questions, he's saying, from the viewers, and he really wants to kind of connect with you all in that way as well, and tune into what you guys want to share or him to share. So on that note, let's ask the first. How can people know you are around? Well, he's saying, you know me, you know I'm around when you're hearing my music, on whether it's on the radio, whether it's in your mind. If you just hear a tune of mine starting to play out of nowhere in your mind, then good chances are I'm trying to connect with you or draw your attention in some way, whether it's to the lyrics of the song. He's highlighting music angels because we have many music angels around us, and if you're interested in learning more about the topic of how certain angels communicate with us through our music or provide messages from spirit through the music that we hear playing in our head, like random songs that pop into our head, do check out my Getting to Know Archangel Sandalphon video, because Archangel Sandalphon is the archangel of music, and he talks in that video and shares of how he works with the music angels to kind of share those types of messages with us and how we can know some of our angelic teams around. So David's highlighting that aspect to having spirit guides. Yeah, what else would you like to say? He's like, yeah, that's how you know your guides are around in general, generally speaking. It's not always, David Bowie coming through per se, or a music angel, but it's just the way the message is being translated, the way you're picking up on the energy. If you're tuning into him specifically, if you're consciously and intentionally wanting to connect with him, he's saying send out that vibration in your thoughts and then listen to the response that you get. So just hear what songs come on the radio after you've initiated connection with David. I mean, a lot of his music plays on the radio, so obviously tune into the stations, he's saying, that are high vibe, that play his genre of music, the classic rock genre and style. He's saying, but you also look me up on YouTube. He's saying, look me up, look up my interviews, get to know me, get to know my personality by watching these types of messages, and tune into my field that way while you're connecting with my music or connecting with me on a video. Or sharing a channeled message. Just practice tuning to my energy and you can sense when I'm around. He's saying he has a very galactic feel to his vibration. I'm predominantly clairaudient, so I don't necessarily always feel the guides so strongly clairsentiently. I feel when they first come in, and it's like I feel my energy shift in my body, but then when I'm talking to them, I don't always just continuously feel their energy. I can feel how they're feeling as we're talking, so maybe that's the way I tune to his vibration. But he's saying you can tune to his vibration and get a sense of his feeling by connecting with his music and tuning into his energy when you hear him talk, he's saying. So just fine-tuning, learning how to fine-tune into different spirit guides, and when you feel a draw to him or his music, or a draw to connect with him on a deeper level, like getting to know him better, his lifestyle and his sense of style, what he was about, and the lyrics in his song and the symbolisms in his music, then you are drawing forward that connection. You're basically pulling his energy in. He's showing it like the spirit realm spirits don't have bodies per se. They have light bodies, but they're so high vibrational that they're not dense like our physical bodies. They're not dense to the touch. They're very like airy, he's showing, and almost like see-through. It's the feeling of when you're in a dream state, your astral body feels like real to you, but it's not, it's ethereal, because it can shift and change form almost, and it can transcend, he's saying, the time and dimensions and space. So you can move like very instantaneously at the speed of light, he's showing, in your dream, and things can shift and conform, like the shapes can shift in conformity and appearance very quickly. He's highlighting that. So it's much like how spirits are in that world. They can see everything that we can see in the physical dimension, but they are ethereal in nature. So they are able to travel like through thought forms is what he's showing. It's like they hear our thought forms. It feels like our thought forms gravitate to them. And when there's an emotional connection, he's saying, and it kind of draws their energy in, and it allows them to tune in or tune out that vibration. And if they are tuned in, which he's highlighting, spirit guides like him and Freddie are consciously choosing to tune into those vibrations. Not all celebrities that pass are wanting to be spirit guides, he's saying, that some of them just want to do their own thing. But there are us light workers, he's showing, that have ascended transcended or ascended to a certain level of consciousness that we are wanting to share. We are wanting to share our gifts. We're wanting to give back to that light worker community, to that starseed community, to really finish the job that we started or help get the job done, is what he's saying. So we want to connect to you as spirit guides. And a lot of people don't feel like we want to connect with them, or why would we, who have passed on, want to come back and talk with people on Earth? Haven't we been there, done that? And he's saying, yes, it's true. It's hard to ascertain, he's saying, how that is even remotely possible, that we can tune into this consciousness in that way. But he's saying it's just a frequency. It's just a frequency. And it's just a frequency switch. So you're tuning into a higher dimension, he's saying. So don't disbelieve it, he's saying. Believe it through your own practice and awareness of how that's possible, and how it's possible for you to even communicate through to your own loved ones in spirit, and know when their energy is around you, because that's who you really want to tune into energetically. Not just people like David Bowie, but people that you admire, but people that you also know that have passed on. So he's saying practice with your intuition, learning how to sense energies, and it's worth your while, he's saying, to learn how to connect, because we can really help you transcend like the limitations of your own mind. He's showing the limitations that have been put upon you from society, expectations and pressures, he's talking about like occult practices and stuff. Like there's a lot of fear associated with mediumship, and that can be very triggering to some people to even be willing to explore that. But David Bowie is showing that he was into everything, and he even went down the rabbit hole of occult practices, and he even went into some of those teachings at one point in his life when he was younger, I think. He was just intrigued by everything. He was an avid reader. He wanted to take all knowledge, so he wasn't opposed to learning about anything. His curiosity really propelled him forward into all these different genres and ideas about life and things, but he just wanted to see how the larger picture worked. He was just trying to see all the parts and how they functioned within the higher knowledge, and how society worked, and how all these ideas come together and create this whole of consciousness, is what he's saying, and humanity's expression of all these different aspects of themselves. Even the darker ones intrigued him. But again, he's showing that later on in his life, he was very settled into his role as a family man, and he came to terms with like who he was as David Jones, more so than David Bowie, and he was able to not need to attach himself so much to those personas or characters that he had created in his mind, to kind of handle the aspects of fame even, and just the type of music that he wanted to create and how he wanted to experiment again in his life. That's an important theme that came up in the first video, is experimentation for him. So he's just saying he was trying to transcend all. He wants us all to transcend all of our limiting fears and doubts and worries, that there's even a sense of right or wrong, that we have the freedom to explore whatever we choose, whatever paths we choose, and no higher being of light and love, like the gods and the ascended masters and source even, is looking down on us for that or judging us for that in any way, shape, or form. We are free to explore and free to decide and free to roam anywhere we choose to roam. But he says all truth basically leads back to the heart, essentially, and source energy. But each lifetime we will spend different lifetimes exploring different aspects of and dimensions and just ways of thinking that appeal to us. We will go down the rabbit hole in many different ways over the course of all of our lifetimes on Earth. We will have dabbled in a little bit of everything by the end of all of our experiences. So that was pretty interesting, David. A pretty good, well-rounded answer there. He's like, well, I'm bringing up some topics that he knows I've been sort of pondering about in my own mind, and I don't want to get into my personal things and what's been just how I've been guided and directed in my own personal life to kind of understand certain aspects of why certain, specifically celebrities, are drawn into different areas, and even the occult thing that has come up in a different guide that came to me, that's kind of bringing out this aspect of me wanting to research like how certain celebrities get even tied into those types of practices. But that's a side note for my own understanding. But he is kind of bringing it to light here because he admittedly has had experience with that. But he's really highlighting no judgment, no judgment is really the common theme for him and for all higher dimensional beings and races of galactics that we tune to. If we tune to our frequency of non-judgment, acceptance, and love for everyone as we are all one, it really helps us to tune out those fears and those doubts and criticisms. If it's something we don't resonate, we don't go down that path, is what he's showing. We don't have to go back down that road, nor should we take on too much energy attempting to judge and criticize others who do, because we don't understand. It's not our thing. So we're not drawn to it for a reason. Maybe we've already been there, done that in a past life, or we just don't have any interest in it, and that is fine. So no judgment is a big theme. Yeah, so we talked about how people can know you are around. This is a good one. This came from one of my viewers. What is the most important thing for us to do in our ascension process? And he's saying, be yourself. Just be you. He's like, it's just as simple as that. Be yourself. Be free to be you. Be free to express yourself, self-expression, any way you choose, any way you desire, and don't be afraid of what the masses are going to say. Just be aware, he's saying, of how you're impacting the lives of others. It's no justification, he's saying, to being like insensible, being over the top in a way that is like not true to yourself. He's wanting you to be yourself, but in a way that really aligns with who you are inside. So taking note of all of your parts, not just overly giving too much attention to just one side of yourself, but learning how to integrate all of the aspects and all of the sides. He's saying, because sometimes what happens is we give too much attention to one aspect of ourselves. We get really fixated on this one side of ourselves, and we go so to the top with that we sort of forget and neglect that we have other parts of ourselves that are feeling neglected or that are within, and they're not healed. We're causing trauma to them because we're literally just going all one direction. And he's saying there's just multi-directions. It's human beings are meant to move in multi-directional. I don't know if it's the word, but multi-directionally is what it feels like he's saying. He's like free to move about in time and space and beyond, and in the spaces beyond within your own mind. You have the capability of traveling to all these dimensions and having all of these experiences. He's saying you don't need drugs to do it. He's saying so many people, rock stars especially, he's saying feel they need drugs to go there and to be that creative and to go into that void of creativity where all this new information is birthed. He's saying, and he's saying you just need to go within your own heart, within your own mind. He's saying, and take a journey within through meditation. And he's highlighting meditation now because he knows that's one of the questions that came up. So let me just start, because I have a lot of writing on this page. I need to kind of keep my place, so I'm going to cross out as we go the questions we've covered and try to find. Yeah, so the question was, and I don't even know if I actually wrote it down, but he's reminding me of it. Well, thank you, David. One of the viewers wanted to know if David ever meditated or his thoughts on meditation. And he's like, yes. And that's what he was starting to go into, was like how meditation, you can go in your own mind and traverse the depths of your own mind through meditation. That's what he was starting to say. He's highlighting Buddhism. So he had an affinity with Buddhism from a very early age, like in his teenage years. And he studied it for a while. And there was a desire to be a monk, or a consideration at one point of becoming a monk. but he decided he couldn't handle like shaving his head at the time, or the haircut. It was something silly like that. But he was saying, but overall, he has practiced the art of meditation. He has practiced meditation and quieting one's mind, and he finds a lot of comfort there in that place, calmness and comforting in that place, to know that you can go within and just be one with yourself. So for him, it felt like it was more about just being one with yourself and one with the universe, and just feeling that connected energetically to just the world around you. Very heart-centered, he's saying. He feels like that practice helped him to be more heart-centered in his life and feel down to earth and feel grounded at times. Yeah, because he said a lot of times his mind was up in the clouds. He's saying his head was up in the clouds, but the meditation did ground him. But it feels also like he might have went through phases with it. Like, I'm not sure, was that a consistent thing that you did all the time? He said inconsistent. He was all over the place, like mentally, he's showing himself. Like, he was always changing his mind and getting into new things and new fantasies and new creations. So he didn't stick with just one thing long enough to really evolve in an enlightened way, to the point of enlightenment through that practice, but he saw the benefits of it. He experienced the benefits of it. He just wasn't tuned to that. He energetically got distracted by other interests and the chaoticness of life and the franticness of just like being on the road and things like that. And just all of the experiences he was having was overstimulating his system in a way. So he didn't necessarily practice meditation for the right reasons at the right timing of it all, where he probably needed it the most. He wasn't utilizing that as a force of nature to help him settle his nerves and just his general sense of peace of mind. He is highlighting he had times of paranoia in his life. He struggled with that. He's also highlighting that schizophrenia was something that ran in his family. It was a mental health illness, but he's saying, but at the time, everything was considered schizophrenia. It was just like his people in his life, I think an aunt or two of his aunts, and even his brother had mental illness, and his brother was put into an asylum. His older brother, who he was close with at one point in his life, but his older brother had a different upbringing because he had a different father, and he was taken away from his mother. So when David was born to, they were half brothers technically, and they had the same mother. But for the first 8 years of his life, his brother, I don't know if his name is Jack, so I'm not sure it is, or Terry or something like that. I think it's Terry, but was with living with his mother, or his mom's mom, or his grandmother, who wasn't very nice to him, I guess, was somewhat abusive, and he ended up having a mental kind of disorder, but he had a mental breakdown and later in his life, and he never really came out of that. I think he ended up committing suicide while he was in the asylum. And it feels like David's saying he feels like a lot of regret and shame over that, over how he sort of treated that whole situation. He seemed to avoid it. He seemed to avoid it. It felt like unhealthy to him. He was scared. It felt unhealthy to him how he dealt with that in his real life, how he actually honored his brother. He just didn't feel like he had it in him to help his brother through that period. He didn't really know enough about mental illness, and it was a topic that scared him a lot, so he kind of stayed away from it. And I think he felt some hurt and shame over maybe he could have done a better job with reaching out, or just being more showing his support for his brother. and visiting him more, maybe spending more time with him while he was alive. But doesn't feel like a topic he wants to really talk about. But that he is highlighting the stigma of schizophrenia, being, just there's just a stigma to having schizophrenia and what that even means in the mental health world. It's not true to what he's saying. It is a break from reality. It's like all your circuits are blown open, is how he's describing it to me, as of what it is to have a mental health breakdown, is when you're actually committed in that type of a way. It's because your circuits are blown open. He said a lot of people, this can be triggered through like certain types of drugs, like acid, for example. You just have this experience where like you get like all this information coming in, and there's no rhyme or reason. It's just like images and ideas, and it can stir up a lot of fear in people. You hear voices, you hear, it's like all of your psychic senses being blown open, and just having these, are you calling it relapses? He's saying, yeah, like relapses of just like that same thing continuously happening to you. It just like any little thing can kind of open that door up for that. It's very traumatic. He's saying to a person, it's very scary because you lose touch with like your own reality and sense of where you're at. So it's very disorienting. It's very, he's showing it like a part of you kind of breaks off from reality at that point and steps aside. And it's almost like your vessel becomes like a vessel for like whatever type of energies want to flow through. So it's caused, it feels like, by significant trauma, or the feeling of needing to disassociate at an early age from traumas around you. There's also a genetic component to that, so it can run in families, so it can be picked up like almost like telepathically, like by those who are born like very empathic or sensitive to the emotions of others, and they're born into like maybe an abusive family, or a family that has that dynamic playing out and that has that in the genetic codes. They can definitely get tuned in the wrong way to that frequency, and that type of disorder can come in. But he's saying, yeah, there's also a question I had on walk-in souls, because in one of my readings, he kind of mentioned that, David Bowie mentioned to a client that he came in for, that he felt a little bit like a walk-in soul, and that's kind of a complex term that it might be a little bit hard for me to even explain that concept in this video. But I feel like this is was kind of one of my questions, was about like the dynamic of his family and the schizophrenia and how that influenced his music. But I also had the question about walk-ins, to ask him a little bit more, to kind of touch on that topic. And he's like, yeah, just there's David saying he had a sense of feeling lost and abandoned. He had a longing for home, a longing for his home planet. So when he came here, it felt like he kind of got dropped off on this earth, and it was lower vibrations, and there was a lot going on in his family dynamics that was scary to him, and he didn't really know how to handle it. So he really went within. He really turned inwards to these characters and this like inner fantasy world that he's talked about. He that's where like he wanted to keep learning about just forces, like how everything worked. Just trying to understand the world around him. He was very driven to understand everything and how everything worked, and how the whole system worked, because he just didn't get it. He just wasn't, it was just a different vibration than what he was used to. But his mind, being intelligent, was really curious and just wanted to like partake in a lot of these different pieces, elements of how everything worked. And what would you like to say about the walk-ins? He's saying he was more than a wanderer soul than a walk-in soul. A wanderer soul is like a star seed that was born on earth, like devoted, like chose to come here at a specific time for a specific reason. He's saying he wouldn't necessarily call himself a walk-in, but he feels like he has had that experience. He feels like he's had that experience somewhere in his life where he hit it. He's showing me like an experience where he hit like a rock bottom place where he could have like chose to exit his body and have someone else come in, but he feels like he actually did live. Oh, actually now he's showing me that he actually did do that a couple times. He allowed a walk-in soul to come in, and the choice was there to like whether or not he wanted to actually continue living with that walk-in soul or energy, but he chose not to. So the walk-in soul then left. So this seems to be around the time of his cocaine use is what he's highlighting. So a little bit with Ziggy Stardust, he was tuning into like another alien outside of himself. Maybe he was channeling some information. It felt like a direct communication link to personality that was a little partly outside of himself, partly attached, but there was still like he was starting to take on this other persona, and that's what scared him about that character. That was one of the times where he was scared he was going to go insane. He's very, very telepathic and empathic, he's showing. He can pick up on energy so well that's why he was able to be a good actor. That's why he was able to get into character mode, and why everybody thought they just got into his characters, because they could feel the energy of the actual character coming through, is what he's saying. Yeah, there were lost aspects of himself that were coming into play, and reasons why, though he was drawing in those specific types of frequencies. But yeah, there were other beings involved, he's saying, and there was definitely a moment he's showing with the walk-in where it feels like the thin white duke at the times when he was doing drugs. He's saying drugs really open up your system energetically to having these other souls come through, and they can trigger traumatic events and traumas that will give you an opportunity, because he's saying he almost lost his life during the time that he was a coke addict. So there were just some really bleak like rock bottom moments with that, and he's still like amazed that he survived it, but it's because he made the choice on a higher soul level, to just continue living on. And so the sense is that he had the option to let this other walk-in maybe take over, or have a walk-in come in, is even the feeling, but he chose to go through it and stick it out. Again, the concept of walk-in is not that familiar of a concept to me. I only know one person that I work with that has a story of being a walk-in, and so I'm learning more about it. But when David Bowie came through for her, I can't remember the exact message, but he was basically telling her like he was like a walk-in too, or he had a similar experience in his life, and so that's what made me want to bring that topic up. But it kind of naturally came in. But I feel him wanting to move on as well, because it doesn't feel so relevant to this particular discussion or his purpose for being here today. But it is kind of an interesting thing to know and understand. So let's go back. Speaking of, galactics, another question from a viewer was, any advice on how to get in touch with our starseed family members? He's saying just tune in. They're right there. They are standing right around you. They will hear you. It's like a radio broadcast. You put the intention out there, they pick up on it, they receive it instantaneously. It's almost like they've received it already in the future timeline, and you're just putting it out there now, thinking they already know. They're coming from the future. They're coming from like other dimensions that are ahead of us. So they have the knowing that we want to connect. So just reach out, just set your intention on connecting and ask them to assist you in helping to make that connection stronger. And then look for all the signs and synchronicities that they're showing up in your life, or all the symbolism that might come through around who your starseed family is. Like if you set your intention to know your starseed family and you're not sure where you're from, what starseed you're from, pay attention to the galactics, he's saying. Start digging into the galactic knowledge. Start reading books. What book are you drawn to? Are you drawn to a book written by the Pleiadians, or are you drawn to like Cryon, or are you drawn to, like Blue Avians, or what type of channeling messages are you drawn to, and do you tend to resonate with? And he's saying when you daydream and when you get lost in your dreams and your daydreams and your fantasies, like what beings do you fantasize about? Like wanting to get to know what sparks your intrigues your interest. He's saying play in your mind with it all. Just imagine you're meeting an Arcturian, for example, and get a vision of what that Arcturian looks like, and then start connecting in with the energy of even the one that you're visualizing. Chances are you've met that Arcturian before, he's saying. Chances are you've met that Arcturian that you're visualizing in a future life, and your subconscious knows it, so it's bringing that forward, and you're thinking it's your imagination. He's saying, but it's actually pulling it from your subconscious mind, which has already had this experience in another time, in another world, on another planet. So bring in, just tune your awareness, and visualize and imagine and build fantasies around these characters in your mind, and they will become real. He's saying you do create your reality. There is truth to that. The waking life is very much like the dream life. It's another version of the dream state. Things manifest in a slower fashion, he's saying, but essentially they manifest. So they manifest in the collection of your thoughts and your ideas and your dreams, and how those play out in the physical. He's saying, so if you want to draw forward that energy, then make a direct connection, whether it's through reading channeled messages, listening to channeled guidance, just paying more attention to the signs that you get that certain beings are around you. And learning about those beings is really helpful too. Just like he's like, just like you're learning about me, he's like, just like you're doing this right now, and just like I told you in the beginning on how to connect with my energy, it's the same for any being or starseed that you're trying to connect with. To know your starseed heritage, it's really where your heart is drawn, or where your heart feels most comfortable or in resonance with, where there feels like there's a sense of home and like-mindedness, like you get their mission. You get their purpose, you get their energy, you get their message, he's saying. If it resonates for you and how they speak when you hear messages from them, and the way they say things, and the terminology that they use even, he's saying you can tell a lot, you can read a lot into just your own, of how much of a connection you have with a different star race just by your own reaction to their message and to their guidance, how it sounds, resonates, and feels. He's saying vibrationally to you, whether it feels like a message of truth that you're connecting with, or just like there's not a resonance. He's saying, but there might not be a resonance in that moment in time. He's saying it might just be something that you need to work on establishing a little bit more. And it's all about, he's saying, tuning your heart to being more empathic and more open to new ideas, he's saying. So the more open-minded you are and heart-based you are, the easier it is for you to connect to any star being, because the more they're going to gravitate towards you and feel safe in their connection with you, because they know you're ready they're not going to shock you. They're generally loving beings, so they're not out to get you or scare you or make you afraid in any way. So, they know when you're ready, and and when the time is right to make their presence known, but you can pick up on clues around you as to who's around you when you just start tuning your awareness to how you gravitate or notice different star beings' names coming at you like more than others. He's saying is usually a good indicator that they're around. He's like, wow, that was a loaded question. I'm thinking the same thing. I think he was impressed with how much information came through there, but that was exactly how I'm feeling. He is saying, well, yeah, there's really a lot to know, technically speaking, when it comes to that topic. He's saying so. If I can be helpful to inform ones on how to connect, then so be it. I'll gladly play that role. I'll even play go-between if you want to connect with Andromedan guides. I am a good guide to help you connect if you wish to do that. Well, thank you, David. So, let's see. Got a few questions to get through here. So, one about your legacy. What do you think of the legacy you left looking back? And what do you want people to know about your music? The legacy I looked back, he's saying there's just so much. There's just so much music, so much genres, so much style. He's like, I'm very proud. I'm very proud of the legacy that I left. You know, I have a complete repertoire of music, and he's saying avant-garde. He's highlighting that term. And he's just using the word Bowie. He's like, it's avant-garde Bowie. I mean, it's its own. It's in a class of its own. It's in uniqueness and talent wise. It's you know, left a mark. It's like as an icon. It's in a class of its own. You know, like there's very few artists that have achieved the level of fame and support and musical repertoire is what he's saying that he did. Even amongst, you know, those who are out there today, it was just that unique of a vibration and of a style to make it that popular, to be that popular. For him to have gotten and rose to that level of fame is really honoring for him. Feels he's very honored and proud of that legacy. And then the second half of the question was, what do you want people to know about your music? He's like, I just want people to know that it was good and that they enjoyed listening to it and that they got a kick out of it, that they got a kick out of the costumes, you know, even if it means that they had a laugh, you know, whatever brought them joy in the moment and helped them subside their fears, he's saying, because that's really what it was about. No judgment, no fears. So just like opening people up and helping people recognize the truth that is within. That there's more to just being a human being than what's on, you know, what the 9-to-5 like surface society tells you. There's a whole fantasy world on the inside and creative aspect and flair that, you know, you can choose to draw attention to in a mainstream way. And he's like, and that's what I did. He didn't recognize when he first started doing that he was going to get so popular as he was. He's saying that wasn't really a goal of his to become so mainstream, and that was hard for him to imagine and fathom that he would ever reach that level of stardom. But he is very proud of it, and he's very honored and flattered even to have made it that far, that long, and still live in the hearts of many. And he's attributing it to just being true to himself, like a true soul who really had the right intentions and didn't get lost in the fear of it all, of what to create. He stayed true to himself as a musical artist, and that authenticity, you know, that kept him like in a safe place, I guess, in the hearts of many, because he had very loyal fans as well. So they stuck with him through all the changes and shifts, but his music stayed good. So for the most part, he's saying with, some maybe a couple albums here and there that maybe didn't do so well, or he didn't consider to be the best of his music, but in general, he's saying the music was good and it reached the hearts of those who loved him, and so it stayed popular. He stayed popular, and he's proud of that. And the next question is, are there any songs of yours that, this is from a viewer, a question, are there any songs of yours that you're very proud of now that you weren't fully on Earth? He's saying Fame. Oh, wow. And Let's Dance. He's saying, okay. It's interesting because he had me listening to Fame. Like, Fame was playing in my head all day, and it's not one of the songs I normally listen to by Bowie, but I like it. I mean, I've always liked it, but since I've been learning more about him, I've been listening to like other stuff, like the Ziggy Stardust album, which is really good, I think. But the question is specifically about songs that he's proud of, that he wasn't fully proud of on Earth, and he's saying Fame and Let's Dance. He's saying those were more like my mainstream hits. He wrote Fame with John Lennon, so he's proud of that song. He's proud of their collaboration together. And he's proud of just the legacy, he's saying, of just even what that song represents. It feels like there's a meaning there with that song. And Let's Dance, very mainstream like hits that he didn't even expect to be so popular, but they really like made their mark in America, and they helped him reach like a greater crowd. And he's showing like people like me even that didn't know any of his other stuff and didn't grow up in the 70s when he was popular then, but yeah, like he's highlighting like Changes, the song Changes, that song, and Golden Years, and Young Americans, and like these types of songs. Like I think some of them he did like in his day, but the Fame and Let's Dance were two that he wasn't necessarily like so into the idea of those songs, but he needed maybe a little bit of help with those songs, or he got some help with. Oh, he's highlighting Under Pressure as well. So he's saying working with Freddie Mercury was a blast, and very honored that he had a chance to. And then he worked with Mick Jagger, and they had a song out, Dancing in the Street. So these are his American hits. He's more proud of them today than maybe he was at the time of their recording and first release. He's showing himself to be very nervous about producing certain types of songs that just weren't totally him. Like he's highlighting the Under Pressure song. Like there's aspects of that song that just like didn't come from him, like weren't totally his style, but coming from his space, he's saying. But he was very interested in the collaboration part of it, and how that sound like really seemed to carry like into the mainstream so well, and he was very proud of that, and that it lives on in the hearts of many. You just keep showing, because a lot of us know those songs, especially in America. Those are more popular songs, anyways, that we know of David Bowie. But he wouldn't necessarily himself consider them his best work. So his best work would be like Ziggy Stardust and Space Odyssey, and he's even highlighting some of the music in his older years that I might not even know about. But it feels like there's a few songs he wrote later on, and even he wrote a song that Nirvana later covered that I had no idea was originally written by Bowie, which is called A Man Who Sold the World, right? It's called The Man Who Sold the World. I'll have to double check that for clarity, but this song is playing in my head, but I think that's it. Anyways, I heard, I've known that song forever to be a Nirvana song, and I thought it was an original Nirvana song, and come to find out a couple days ago that no, David Bowie wrote that song 35 years before Nirvana recorded it. So there's a lot of hits he's saying, there's a lot of songs he could mention here, but for the sake of clarity and simplicity, those two, Fame and Let's Dance, and even Under Pressure, it feels like he's more proud now on how they left the mark and the legacy and how often they're played, and then some of the other work that he thought was more eclectically, musically more better sound-wise, but that's David Bowie for you, right? That's his take on it, and I think it's interesting because he has been listening to Fame all day, and even Let's Dance came on, and Under Pressure too. All those songs, Under Pressure came on the radio today, because I was like, "You ready to do part 2 today, David?" I'm expecting here Under Pressure to come on the radio, and within 10 minutes or so it did. So yeah. So let's see, next question, as we're getting close on time. I'll try to get through these next ones fast. Any members of, this is a good one. So we've talked about the Heart Squad in some of my other videos, and I think I might have mentioned it at the beginning of this video, or the first part, about Amanda Ellis, the channeler and medium Amanda Ellis, who has been, for years now, bringing forward celebrity guides that have formed this collective of energy she calls the Heart Squad. And there's a lot of guides on this list. Freddie Mercury is one, George Michael is one, and David Bowie is one, but there's Elvis, there's a bunch, Princess Diana, a lot of different guides that she has channeled. And but I've noticed since I brought in Freddie, it's like the Heart Squad members are showing up one by one. So I imagine I'll be getting to Princess Diana soon. And I've recently been contacted by Chris Cornell. So, we'll be going into more of these videos and messages from these guides in the future. But one viewer had a really good question, and I'm kind of curious about this myself. And her question was, are any members of the Heart Squad alive today? Or has the collective moved on? Mission complete. And David's laughing. He's kind of like, he's like, mission never complete. And he's like, using the song from the Space Oddity, Ground Control to Major Tom. He's saying that line is playing in my, like, kind of like they're sending out their beams to us and trying to connect. He's saying this Heart Squad is a very large collective, and you're all part of it. All it is unity consciousness. It's an expression of unity consciousness. When you pass into a different phase of your ascension process of your life, and some beings were of higher light than others. It didn't get stuck as much in the denser energies and heavier energies. We really came here on a mission to lighten the load, and to express their creativity in a way that would shed light on the unity consciousness. He's saying, so that's his best description of what it means to be part of a Heart Squad. He's like, it's an elegant term, he's saying, but it really doesn't, it doesn't pertain to, like, how are you putting this, David? It's a general term. He's saying it applies to everyone on some energetic level. It's just those souls who are choosing to come through at that particular time for a very specific purpose and message that is heart-based and helping people lift into unity consciousness. So it really is a term for the dead in a way, because it's not about what someone's doing on earth. He's saying it's about what someone is doing in heaven. It's about the work that goes on after one passes, and what they choose, what their consciousness chooses to do, and how they choose to share, to continue like sharing their message in that way. So a lot of musicians are in that group, because a lot of us as musicians, as light workers, we're here to spread our message through our music, and we were known in that way, and we shared our vibration, and we channeled, and we were mediums in that sense for higher dimensional communication. So we're very well aware of the importance of having a message and sharing your voice in that sense. And we're also used to the idea of fame and being called upon by people, and we're comfortable with it. So some of us more than others as spirit guides, but we came, the Heart Squad or collective came back around at this time specifically because the veils are thinning, and it's easier to hear us and see us and pick up on us energetically. And so we're kind of coming back around at a time where our energy is most needed, at a heightened time of perception and awareness, where not just mediums, but just the average person can tune into our message and hear us and feel us around them, and just lift their spirits, lift their vibration. He's saying that's really all it's about. It's about lifting one's vibration. And also he's saying, it's interesting, he's saying, and tapping into your curiosity and potential of what's out there. What is life like beyond the grave? What is it like for these celebrities? And he's saying you've grown attached to us as celebrity guides in a way. You've already been tuning into us as celebrity guides. So it's really, when we were on earth, you idolized us and fantasized about us and meeting us, and you just had a reverence for us in a sense. So we were like rock gods already. We already had your attention in that way. So it's easier for us to connect with people. So us coming through is more than just about our message. It's about us wanting to show you the way and show the truth that like everything is all right, everything is fine. There's no judgment when you get to heaven. There's nothing to be afraid of in transitioning on into a new life. And there's always something to learn. There's always a greater and higher meaning and lesson to learn as to why you were here. And through our music and through our lives, you can help to see or learn to see your own struggles in our struggles. No, being famous isn't quite the same as, being average in living this like average life, but in a way it is. He's saying, because we all struggle and we all suffer, and we've all had our time in our day. He's saying, hence we've moved on. But being from this higher perspective and being able to share that message in this way is really important to the growth of the whole collective and the oneness and coming together. Because he's showing, because not everybody can relate to the idea of, a galactic, channeling a galactic being, but everybody, even the people that like aren't as open-minded to the idea of channeling can relate to the curiosity that it sparks in someone to channel Princess Diana, for example, or Prince, or Freddie Mercury, or Michael Jackson, or all these famous celebrities that we all knew to love, and also it reassures people like knowing that they've moved on and they're in a good place and they're here to help us. And he's like, that's just such a beautiful message. Like, why not share it? Why not be more openly expressive of that? And your reason why you would want to share that, or why we would want to help people in that way. Of course we want to help people in that way. We wanted to help people in that way when we were on earth, or that was part of our main mission on earth that some of us accomplished, but didn't always see the truth of it. He's saying, so it's very enlightening for them to be able to talk to us in a way that's also accepting of their own role and their own power, that they maybe weren't fully aware of the influence that they had till even after they passed. So they've learned a lot since after their own passing too. that has helped them kind of see the higher message and why things, even in their own personal lives, had to be the way they were. They've just gained a lot of insight and access to this wisdom on the other side that's really helped them to be able to help us and show us the way as well. So that makes a lot of sense. So he's saying, so they're not necessarily still alive. That he's saying they're all alive in the sense that they're not dead yet. He's saying, but anyone that crosses over can choose to be a part of that collective when they would make a conscious choice of it, is what he's showing. So he's saying we can't necessarily tell you who on earth is of that collective. We know everybody is of that collective in a sense. It's the choices made by that soul after they cross, is what he's saying, whether they're guided in that direction or not. And he's saying Metatron has a lot to do with it, choosing or selecting those souls who are ready to be rebirthed again. He's saying it's really a process of being reborn again in your own light. You have to be ready for that transition. Now you're moving into being a spirit guide as to being like an earthbound. It's just a different type of fame, he's saying. It's a different type of stardom. It's a different type of role. So it's about transitioning into that new role and being the type of guide that wants to do that or has a desire to do that. So it's really a choice. It's a heart-based choice that's made upon one's passing. But it's offered to those souls who have a higher level of awareness and who are ready at that time to transition into that role. So that makes a lot of sense. So he's basically saying he can't tell us who those people are, but he'll know when they get to heaven. So thank you, David. That was very. I can totally understand that. I had no idea how he was going to answer that question, and I was curious about that myself. I thought he would be giving us names, but I get it. I get it. It makes more sense as the way that you answered that. So thank you. Okay, so talking about mediumship, we've touched on this a little bit, and I know this video is getting long, but I mean, it's just David Bowie. I mean, I'm just he's got a lot of interesting stuff to say, and I think it's because he's so well read, he's so intelligent. He's like, why, thank you. Why, thank you. He's like, honored. No, it's true. It's like I think I could talk to you as much as I could probably sit here and talk to Metatron, and sometimes when I'm talking to David, I almost feel like I'm talking to Metatron because he's got that otherworldly vibe, and it's just so cool. So I'm really tuning into him as a guide. He's like, thank you. So yeah, what advice do you have for mediums looking to expand their intuitive abilities? This is a question I've asked, I think, all the other celebrity guides, which is just about only two, actually, Freddie Mercury and George Michael. But this is like one of those questions I like to ask all of them because I just like to hear their answers. And that's really the main point of my channel, too, is really all about helping everybody expand their intuitive gifts. So, yeah, how would you like to answer that one, David? He's like, it's all about expansion. It's just be open to expanding. And he's saying just be open to communicating and learning how to channel. He's saying there's so many directions you can go with it, but you want to go with where you're drawn, where you resonate. If you resonate with celebrity guides, try us first, try connecting with us, try communicating with like your loved ones who've passed. He feels like he's touched on some of this stuff already, so I think he's going to be more general. He's saying I'm being more generalized in answering this because he's like, I've gone down this rabbit hole a few times already in this conversation. It's already kind of, we've talked about how to make contact with your starseed, so he feels like that's good enough advice for us to be able to wrap it up a little sooner. He won't go into all the details of that again, but just drawing your awareness to like the different ways to connect and find a medium or a teacher who you resonate with is what he's saying. That's really important. He's saying when you're getting the message about something or wanting to learn something that you you choose a teacher that you resonate with, and that is something to offer you that is like new and exciting for you, and is helping you to grow and expand in your own gifts and awareness of what those gifts are. And then he's just saying, and just love yourself, and just love yourself, and you know, it's a state of allowance and acceptance is what it is of what is and what is not, essentially, is what he's saying. So just, accept it when it comes, and be okay if it doesn't come naturally. Not everybody's like everybody has these abilities, but not everybody like gets into it. It's just like, oh, it just opens up so fast, so right away. So he's kind of emphasizing the aspect of it as to don't be hard on yourself if you don't always get all the answers right, or you don't get all the answers and messages. There's just it's just practice and your approach is what he's saying. It's about practice and approach, how you approach the guide you're wanting to connect with, and your ability to open up and really intuitively tune and connect into that guide and what that message is coming from. But you really should choose guides you resonate with. He's like, don't go for the guides that just are too out there for you. Just go with a guide that you resonate with. And if that's a celebrity guide, like, Ray Charles, or I don't even know, or Elvis, he's like, go with those guides, But if it's somebody else, galactic being, go with that guide. So just go with the guides that you feel comfortable with. And that you even maybe a little bit about them too already, so you're not like just like making a shot in the dark. He's saying you really want to like have a bullseye. You want to have a target. You want to hit the bullseye. So you want to know what your target is. You want to like map it out. Wow, this is he's giving me. This is where the lieutenant sergeant side comes out. The divine masculine. He's showing me like if you were to like he's showing me if you were to like if you had a, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to call it, if you had a military, what's the word, operation. Okay, thank you. I know that came from him because I couldn't think of it. If you had a military operation going on, he's showing like the generals would be behind the scenes. They wouldn't just go in there and be like, okay, we're going to get this person, we're going to save this person and get this person out. This is our mission. Or they have a goal and a mission, but they don't just randomly go in there and just haphazardly go in there. They take the time to plan it out. He's showing like a map. They have a map of like where the building is and where the target is and what the purpose is, and all the strategies and people involved. And it's very, very highly orchestrated and highly planned to every last detail. And then there's a plan B and a plan C. So he's like, have a plan A, B, and C, and have a target. Like, know your goal, know what you're wanting out of that guide, and why you're wanting to connect, and how you're wanting to connect, and what you're wanting to know. He's like, have that all mapped out before you go in. So he's showing me that like having questions like this in this interview style is very helpful for a fluid conversation, because I'm constantly switching back from asking the question to like coming from me in my point of view to then hearing his point of view and simply just being open to receive whatever comes in. So he's saying that way is very fruitile, or yeah, it's action oriented. He's saying it's an action oriented approach. It's like a divine masculine approach. Like, you plan out your mission, you plan out how your agenda, what you're going to talk about, you structure the conversation. He likes that about my style. I'm hearing he knows well in advance what I'm going to ask him, so he's had time to think about it, because I've had these questions written down for 2 days now. He's like, oh, plenty of time. And then he knows I'm going to ask questions, so he plants questions in my mind too. And he can plant the answers in my mind, like the songs that he was playing for me today on the radio was all about him knowing that I had already set the intention to do this interview and the time it was going to be. So he was ready. He's punctual. He says he was ready and on time. And it did feel very punctual today, actually, to think of it. Sometimes it's haphazard, like not usually with celebrity guides though. With celebrity guides, I'm a little more respectful of like, okay, their energy and their willingness to share, and I just have a great respect for them. So I come at them as like, okay, are you wanting to do this today? This is what my plan is for today, and give me a sign that you're all set. So he appreciates that, like advanced preparation. But yeah, he's saying like as a medium, that's one way to do it. That's a good way to do it because it gives a lot of like, it sets the groundwork and sets the stage for a good performance. And so thank you, David. I find that very interesting that you're, that's how you explain it, but I love that. I love that. Very structural approach, but it makes a lot of sense. So thank you. And I can tell I'm getting tired, so I'm going to be wrapping it up. And we did already cover some of these questions, so that might have been my official last question. So, and my voice again, man, today's really in and out. I don't think I could have been a singer. I don't know, because it seems like I can't sustain the energy in my voice. It's mostly when I channel though. I mean I do other talk shows and stuff, and it doesn't seem to bother me as much unless when I'm really channeling, especially like an interview like this. It really acts up. So any last words, David? Yes, just be yourself. He's actually highlighting a Chris Cornell song, which I think is funny, but he likes Chris Cornell. He's showing he really likes Chris Cornell, and Chris Cornell, if you're not familiar, is from the band, is the lead singer from the band Soundgarden and Audio Slave. Oh, thank you. David's saying, oh, he's doing a lead-in for Chris Cornell because he knows that's going to be my next guest speaker. But the song David was quoting is "Be Yourself, That's All You Can Do," right? Or yeah, I don't want to sing it right now, but be yourself, that's all that you can do. And it's a good song. It might just be called "Be Yourself," the name of the song, but it's Chris Cornell's song, and I don't know which band it was that he sang. It would have been Audio Slave, or I think it's Audio Slave, but David's highlighting that, so I find that funny because he says I'm going to be bringing him in next, or he's wanting to come in on my next channeling. He's like, yeah, David's saying, that is the message. That is the message, is be free to be yourself. He's saying, it's just, those are my last words. Just be true to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be compassionate to yourself and to others. Give others a break. Don't judge others. Don't judge a book by its cover. Allow others to be themselves. And tune into the higher awareness, he's saying. Tune into the higher mind. Learn to see things from a neutral perspective. He's highlighting Buddha. It's like his message is really like Buddha would be. Like, suffering is in your own mind. It's the own conditioning of the ego that allows you to suffer. It keeps the suffering going. So just learn to set yourself free by like tuning into the messages of your heart, living in accordance with what your heart wants to do, and being true to yourself and being true to the guidance that you are receiving. He's saying, because you're all receivers and you're all getting guidance in some way, shape, or form through these messages that you're hearing today. Guidance is coming through. So just use your awareness, tune your frequency, be discerning, tune to the messages of the heart, and learn to sing your song. And live life by your own rules and expectations. So, or is it limitations? He's saying you're all expansive, and you can go in any direction you want, but you have to tune in to what the heart wants and what the heart needs in any given moment. So just stay present, stay true to yourself, he's saying, and be yourself, and that's all that you can do. So thank you for that, and I do look forward to bringing in Chris Cornell sometime, if not this month, then next month. And thank you, David Bowie, officially thank you, and he's saying thank you. He's saying it was my pleasure. He's saying this was a great act, or this was a great one. Like this, the interview, he feels like he got a lot of his message out and was able to really cover a lot of ground, which I agree. And he's happy about the stuff that came out about the galactics, and he's really hoping that we do learn how to tune into our galactic starseed, because it's really important for the planet right now to help anchor the light in. But he's genuinely happy to be here and to share these messages with us today. And so before I go, I would just like to ask for you to please like the video and subscribe to my channel if you resonate with these types of videos and messages and channelings. Please do also consider to support me at my Patreon site, which is in the link in the descriptions box for that. There's a very small $2 membership fee to join, monthly membership fee, but I do release content early. You get early access to these types of videos, so you would get this video before the others on YouTube get it. And also it just helps to support my work. That's the main reason for me to keep doing what I'm doing and producing more videos like this. And also I do like giveaways on Patreon, and there's other opportunities on there and some exclusive footage on there as well that I don't always share on YouTube. So with that, I think that's it. So we'll just look forward to seeing you next time, and bye for now.